Hey guys, in this session let us learn about a very common error called open cursor exceeded error, and the error code is ORA-1000. Why this error happened? In general, application establishes a session with the Oracle database and it executes a sequence of SQL statements, either in the form of PL SQL or individual SQL with the help of either Java code or any JVM, right? So there will be an application, a middleware tier, and database. So in this case, if the application does not close the connection properly, so this situation is called as cursor leak. Okay, so in order to avoid this cursor leak, we have a parameter called open cursors. Okay, so let me explain. Application executes a number of SQL statements in the backend of the Oracle database, and a specific amount of memory will be allocated, and this memory allocated is called as cursor, right? So there will be cursor allocated which acts as a pointer from the user process and the server process, right? And once the private SQL space is allocated, the SQL statement with the cursor enters the library cache, and parsing will be happen, right? So let me get back to the architecture. If the application executes a PL SQL or SQL code, it has to allocate this user process, and private SQL area will be allocated, and all these private space will be having cursors, right? So this is how the architecture works. Okay, and so there will be a parameter, as I already said, called open cursor. So this parameter limits the number of cursors that can be opened by a particular user process. Okay, so multiple user process can use up to this limit. Okay, so if I set the parameter value as 300, this user process can consume 300 cursors. Likewise, this user can process 300 cursors. So there is no hard limit for this number of cursors that can be opened in the database. Okay, it depends on your memory capacity. Okay, but to limit each and every session, you have this parameter. So if this value is exceeded, then you will face this error called ORA-1000 open cursor exceeded error. Okay, if the application team or the development is not closing the connections properly from the application, then millions of parse requests will be established in the database, which will overload the CPU. Okay, or it may fill up the library cache. So you will run out of memory, and your database may hang, or it may throw some memory errors, or it may be down. Okay, so for these reasons you set this open cursors parameter. Okay, so the maximum number of cursors that can be allocated for each session will be determined by this parameter. Okay, so say for example, if a session has if the open cursor parameter is 300, each and every session can have up to 300 cursors. Okay, as I already said in the architecture. So if I have 10 sessions like this, okay, so all these 10 sessions have individual value as 300. Okay, so if you calculate the total number of open cursors, it will be 3000. Okay, so there is no hard limit or thumb rule for the maximum value that can be used in a database. It depends on the memory limit. Okay, let me execute this SQL statement. Before that, let me open a new session to monitor the number of open cursors. Okay, you have multiple views that can be used to monitor the open cursor. You can use $stat name, $stat, and $open cursor. Okay. So this query will show you the current value, threshold value, and the percentage of cursors used. Okay. So my current value is 44. Currently, my session is using 44 cursors. Okay. And the total value is 300. Okay. Or you can also check using show parameter open cursor. So this will also show you the threshold for the number of open cursors. Okay. And if you want to independently query the columns as per your requirement, you have all these columns. Okay, and you can also see the last SQL active time, which is very important. When the SQL was last executed, right? And you can also see the cursor type. Okay, all these informations can be queried. Okay, now let me execute another query which will show you the SQL statement and SQL text. Okay, so here you will get the address of the SQL statement, SQL ID of the SQL statement, and also the number of cursors that it consumes. Okay, so this address will determine the address of a particular SQL statement in the library cache. Okay, that's what I wanted to add. And even this query will give you the SQL ID and the username. Okay, so let me simulate the error and monitor it parallelly. So now just check this particular query and refresh this. You can see the increment of the number of cursors, right? So suddenly it has increased to 75, and the next value is 196, and the next value is 300. So at this point there will be an error. Okay, open cursors exceeded error, right? So after that, again your cursor value went back to 44. Okay, so if you don't have this limit, and obviously your cursor keep on spawning. Okay, it will go to 5,000, it will go to 10,000, and it may also go to up to the memory limit. So once it touches the memory limit, then obviously your database will be in trouble, right? So that's why you set this parameter. Okay, you just check in OERR utility. You don't have any recommendations now, but the common solution for this issue is to increase the number of open cursors. Okay. So current value is 300. What you can do is, as a workaround, you can set this value to a higher level. But this parameter needs a reboot. Okay. So if you want to set this parameter, obviously you need to discuss with the application team for a downtime. Okay. But this may not be the efficient solution always. Why? Because the issue is from application side. Okay, so you need to discuss with the application team. Okay, and so you have identified the SQL statement. Okay, say for example, let me use this query to identify the SQL statement. Okay, so you have this particular query consuming almost 49 cursors. Okay, and you can also get the details of this particular session. Okay, so what this SID is and where this SID is coming from. Okay, you can get the program name and terminal, module, so that it will be easier for you to demonstrate this issue with the application team. Okay, so this SQL comes from this particular program. So since we executed from the database itself, there will not be any program or module name related to application. But in real time, you may have some application name over here. Okay, you just need to discuss with the application team saying that this particular query, which is executed from this particular program, is consuming these many number of cursors. Okay, so is there any way to close the cursors gracefully? Okay, what I did is I purposefully didn't close the cursor in a PL SQL procedure, so that's why we are able to simulate this error. So likewise, in a real time, we may not know as a DBA what happens with the application side, right? So the only solution that we can give as a workaround is to increase this parameter. But you cannot keep on increase this parameter to a value where you cannot afford that much amount of memory, right? So you cannot keep this value to 10,000 or 20,000. Okay, even 1,000 or 2,000 value is very high for a very critical database. Okay, so to efficiently mitigate this issue, you obviously need to discuss with your application team and try to tune the code. Okay, so if you have identified any better execution plans or better solution, you can also suggest application team saying that these are the changes. Okay, so sometimes if you are in 12c version, a particular SQL statement or a PL SQL may consume certain number of cursors, but the same SQL query will consume more number of cursors in 19c. Okay, so that difference should be noted. Okay, so you need to check if there are any changes happened, any patches you have applied or any upgrades that you had done. Okay, and you can also check the alert log. So since we manually executed the SQL query, we may not know if this particular error happened. Okay, so in real time, we will not be knowing. So here, since I executed the SQL query from SQL Plus, I'm able to identify this error. Okay, just grep it with ORA-1000. You can see, right, in alert log this error is reported. So in case if you face any hang or any slowness in your database, first you need to check the alert log, and if you see this error, you need to immediately act by increasing either this parameter or if you have time to explain all the situations to the application team, you can tell that this particular code and this particular SQL is consuming high cursors. Okay.